In this video, I want to start taking in our users' inputs and actually doing stuff with them. So this is where we're going to get into we're just going to get into some simple logic. So we're going to get into if statements, and then we're going to use a switch statement. And I'm going to try to explain what they are, what they can be used for, and what their differences would be. So kind of like, when would you use what? So again, this is something you're probably going to be getting into early on in your semester. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to start from scratch here. Let's just have that empty. What we're going to do is we're going to ask the user for their age. So we're going to print out some text. Then we're going to get in some text and we're going to check and see, hey, is this age greater than 50? If it is, we print out some text saying, hey, your age is greater than 50. If not, we print out, hey, you are younger than 50. So something very simple like that. And then we're going to move on to switch statements, and I'll explain that as well. So for starters, I've already showed you how to print out to the screen, so we're just going to see out, enter your age. Then we're going to get some input. So let's go ahead and create a variable. So int user age equals 0. std sin user age. So for now, let's go ahead and print this out. So std out age, user age, and end the line. So all we're doing is just simply printing out the age right now. So enter in the age 50. We print out 50. So how do we use an if statement? Well, kind of like it sounds. We have if, and then in a opening and closing parenthesis, we have our condition. So our condition is if user age is greater than 50. That's it. It's almost like pseudocode. It's just like as you speak it. If user age is greater than 50, do what's in these braces. Or otherwise, do what's in these braces. So we also have an else. So you can kind of set up blocks of code by just like how the main function here uses them. So you have your opening and closing curly brace, just like your if statement does right here, and your else statement, which you can also get rid of if you only going to have a single line. But for the sake of keeping things clean, it's good to keep consistent, because it's better to be consistent with ugly code than inconsistent with nice clean code to some extent. So if you're going to use braces like this anywhere, well, sorry, you're going to have to just anyways, but I would recommend just using braces. Anyways, if user age is greater than 50, well, let's print out your age is greater than 50. Let's end the line. And now let's just bring this down here to our else statement and change it to your age is less than 50. Oops, I forgot to add the two greater than symbols for our end line. But let me go ahead and comment this out. Like it states, if your age is greater than 50, then your age is greater than 50. It's printed out. If it's not, then your age is less than 50. So let's try it with 20. Your age is less than 50. Try it with 50. Your age is less than 50. Try it again. Let's do 51. Your age is greater than 50. Well, why did it say your age is less than 50 when we entered in 50? Well, the reason for that is because we want to do greater than or equal to 50. So in math, this symbol I think is a little bit different, but most of the time in C-based languages, you're going to have whatever symbol it is, so greater than, equal to, and that's going to combine them. So if your user age is greater than or equal to 50, this gets printed out. So now when I enter in 50, your age is greater than 50. Well, that's not exactly quite accurate, because if we enter in 50, it's not greater than 50. So we could do is just have it simply be we could have another if statement in here. So for example, if user age equals 50, then we print out your age equals 50. Else, your age is greater than 50. Now, this is what is called a nested if statement. So for example, if I run it now, I'll enter in 50. Your age equals 50. But if I enter in something greater like 51, your age is greater than 50. So here's the kind of flow of the program. So we have our initial check here. So we enter in our age. Let's say we enter in 50. If user age is greater than or equal to 50, okay, that's going to be true. So that means that this is never going to run. Then we jump right down and we have another check. If user age is equal to 50, well, that's going to be true. So this is never going to run, which means this is the only part of this whole block of code that is going to run. Or sorry, these are the only parts of this entire block of code that's going to run. So it's going to print out your age equals 50. And that's how you can use your if statements. So they're kind of, it's not as specific, so to speak, but you can also make it specific. So for example, let me just print out something here. Your age is greater than 50 and less than 52. Well, how would we do that? Well, we have to get, that means our age has to be 51 that gets entered in. And then I'm going to have just print out something else. Your age is not 51. And I'm just going to actually make this one print out. Your age is 51. So your age is not your age is not 51 and your age is 51. Well, with an if statement, how do we check if an age is 51? Well, the reason I'm showing you how to do that with an if statement, because this is where switch statements are going to come into play to make it simpler. So when we're checking with a specific value, like we want to have it, check and see if it equals something specific, like 1, 10, 15, 20, blah, 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 we would probably want to use a switch statement. If we want to check a range, like, okay, is this value greater than 5? Is it less than 5? Is it equal to 5? Is, just something simple like that. Then we want to use an if statement. And same thing in this case, because we're going to be checking if it's within a range of just simply 1. So if it's greater than 50, and if it's less than 52, then obviously the value must be 51 if that condition is true. Well, in a switch statement, we could do that very easily. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to do if user age is greater than 50, and we can have 2 conditions be checked, and they both must return true for this if statement to be true, which means this code will run. That's what this is for. So if user age is greater than 50 and user age is less than 52, your age is 51. Let's try it. I'll enter in 50. Your age is not 51. I'll enter in 52. Your age is not 51. And I'll enter in 51. Your age is 51. Well, great. We just had to do all this for that simple check. Now, an if statement would be more used, or better used if this was a bigger difference, such as if user age is greater than 50 and less than 60. So we have a much bigger range, but because we're using one just to check if it's, a specific value, we would probably want to use a switch statement. So a switch, we can do that exact same thing like this. So we do switch, and then again, we have our condition, except this is just it's not going to be our condition inside of these braces inside of the parentheses. Instead, it's just going to be the variable that we're going to perform the checks on. So we're going to do switch, user, age, and then do our braces. So the way you use a switch is you have what's called cases. So for example, I would do case 51, and then I would use a colon, and just do space. Now, if user age if in case the user age is equal to 51, this is going to run like that. I could do it again. Case, let's do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, if user age is equal to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this is going to run. So we want to check if it's 51. So we're going to do that right here. So if if user age is equal to 51, we're just going to do cout. Your age is 51. Like that. I prefer formatting it like this. Well, great. Well, we have our check for 51, but what if we enter in 6? Nothing prints out. So if we enter in something other than 51, we want something to be printed out. So with a switch statement, you have what's called a default case. So you would just do default, colon, and then whatever you want to run inside of there. So in this case, I'm going to do std cout. Your age is not 51. So now when I enter in 6, your age is not 51. Now there's a problem with this. So if I run it again and I do 51 for the input, well, it printed out both. Your age is 51 and your age is not 51. So why did that happen? Well, in a switch statement, even though these can kind of be considered separate pieces. So think of them like if. So if user age equals 51, if user age does not equal 51. Imagine these are not if user age equals 51, else user age does not equal 51 kind of thing. So like these are constantly going to be running from top to bottom. So just for example, let's do 40. Example print. If I were to run this again and do 51, well, it's going to print out all 3 like this. And if I enter in 40, it's going to print out the last 2 like this. So whichever one it starts on, it's going to run till the end unless you break out of the switch statement. So you have to do what's called a break. So inside of this case here, I want to do break. And if this condition is met, which it will be when I enter in 51, we're going to print some text, then we're going to break out of the statement. So we're going to go from being inside of here to just outside of it, anywhere else. We're going to jump right outside of this switch statement. I'm going to enter in 51, press enter, and it just only prints your age is 51. So that's how you can kind of combine the switch statement and the if statement to have different use cases. So they are used differently. So this would be probably a better case where you would check something like if you have a bunch of specific values that you want a variable to be, like 51, 55, 40, that kind of stuff, very specific, probably going to want to use a switch statement. If you have ranges that you want to check, like is this variable between 50 and 70? Is this variable less than 50? Is it greater than 50? That kind of stuff. Use an if statement. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. They're quite simple. And hopefully you learned something. Because next up, we're going to be doing the exact same thing, but we're going to be moving this kind of stuff into a function to really clean this code up, because our main function's starting to get kind of ugly with some random stuff that I don't necessarily want to have in here. So, yeah, I will see you in the next video.